Well, back on topic, I hope. I've been making comparisons in my mind between the Madeleine McCann case and the case of two of the little girls, Marc Dutroux, the Belgian murderer, supposedly killed. On the face of it, I can see that I may be out on a limb. But what have we got? Madeleine McCann, no body. We know there was a cadaver. I'm not afraid of being sued for a whole host of reasons. I'm not really afraid of being sued. We do know there was a cadaver because the cadaver dogs marked the spots. Now you've got a missing little girl, and in her apartment and in her parents' hire car and on her mother's clothing and arguably on her cuddle cat, we have cadaver scent. So we do know she's dead, in my humble opinion. I have quite a bit of faith in dogs. We know she's dead, but there's no body. Or we know there was a corpse in that apartment. Okay, no body. In the case of Marc Dutroux, the two little 8-year-olds, and I'm so sorry I forget their names. I normally remember children's names. I'm not so good with adults. Children and dogs. Two little 8-year-olds who we're supposed to believe starved to death after 4 months in a cellar. Not really, really early on in that period of incarceration, but right at the end of the 4 months. Their bodies were not produced. The parents were not allowed to see them. In other words, for all we the public know, there were no bodies. And yes, you bet your life I'm accusing the police of corruption. Watch the documentaries and I think you might find you will be convinced too. There was a high-level cover-up. And those two little girls have been more or less forgotten, along with the two 18-year-olds who were supposedly buried alive. The only two remembered are the two who were rescued. So we have no corpses produced in evidence. Although in the case of Madeleine McCann, I have to admit that the evidence that there was a corpse, most certainly. No corpses produced. In the case of the two little girls, the Marc Dutroux little girls, no proof that there were ever any corpses. And I could actually extend this further, because we are talking about a global paedophile ring that's been around for decades. We could take this to the Moors murders. Neither of the Moors murderers has ever, at any time, revealed the grave of Keith Bennett. Now, I have, again, an out on a limb opinion about this, which is that this is because they don't know where it is. That this is because someone else murdered Keith Bennett, not them. And we know, don't we, already, that even in prison, nasty things can be done to people who tell. So again, we have known paedophiles, known murderers, who can produce all the corpses bar one. Again, in my opinion, a very high-level cover-up. Very, very high-level cover-up. Because the Moors murderers arguably could very easily be connected to Jimmy Savile, for a start. just for a start, and Jimmy Savile is connected to Edward Heath, and Edward Heath, we know who he was, Prime Minister, which again connects to Haute de la Garenne in Jersey, and so on and on and on. The publicity, by the way, going backwards now, that Madeleine McCann has received over a period of 9 years is absolutely, utterly ridiculous. Yes, she was a dear, sweet little girl. By all appearances, well, all little girls of 3 are sweet. They have an occasional tantrum, or they may be spoiled, but, they're little tiny girls. Please don't let me lose my train of thought. Hundreds of thousands of children go missing every single year, including in the UK, Portugal, you name it. And yet, for 9 years, the focus has been on one child, one British child. Why? Why? Is my question. Try to remember his name. Amaral, the Portuguese policeman, wrote a book a long time ago about the case, which in my opinion is the truth. Banned in England. Promptly banned in England. That's a very strange censorship, because all he did was talk about the evidence. Witness statements, cadaver dogs, no evidence that anyone had broken into the apartment, conflicting statements from the parents, the fact that Jerry McCann appears to have been associating at that holiday resort with a paedophile. And they were discussing how to make little girls perform oral sex on grown men. And then suddenly their little girl vanishes. Well, I dread to think what happened to that poor little mite, because the hire car, if memory serves, I should go back over the evidence, was hired several weeks later. So either they had a cadaver who'd been dead a long time, or she was kept somewhere and killed at a later date. I'm just joining dots here between cases covering decades in different parts of the world, and no doubt, very easily, many more could be added.